and people are waking up to the fact that Vietnam has a lot to offer. And what we're trying to do is not only offer the best of what we know how to make, but also tell the story about how that got into your cup. Yeah, I mean, that's actually where the original idea for Lacàph stemmed from. You know, this sort of realization that when people come to Vietnam, it's not only just about buying, let's say, trinkets and things like that, but people really want to buy into the story, right? People want to learn about Vietnam.
Welcome back to another episode of Vietnam Rising, guys. If you're watching us on YouTube right now, you will see that we are at a different locations. I'll tell you a little bit later why we are here. So for the past few episodes, we've been talking a lot about the modern Vietnam, like technology, entrepreneurship, startup, etc. But you also have to remember that Vietnam is a country with rich culture. Luckily, there are people out there who are dedicated to explore the cultures and educate and bring it out and show it to the world. Today, our guest is one of them. He is an entrepreneur with several ventures that are dedicated to art and culture in Vietnam. So today, Timen is going to show us the adventures of how to find hidden gems in Vietnam. Timen, can you tell us more about what you do?
All right. So first of all, thank you so much for having me on your show. Thank you for coming to Lacàph space. That's a space we're in right now. So let's start a little bit about Lacàph. Lacàph is a coffee brand, essentially. We use 100% Vietnamese beans, and we try to show the world that, in fact, you can make great, great coffee just using Vietnamese beans. And we're relatively new, so you're one of our first guests.
Yeah.
And we make 3 different blends, espresso and pour over, and then, of course, Vietnamese Phin style. We also make a tea using the husks of coffee cherries. And people are really enjoying that as well.
Yes.
So
I actually tasted this the first time last week when I saw you, right? And it was really good.
Yeah.
And it tastes nothing like coffee.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, you know, I know that you're not a big coffee fan, right? So that's why I wanted to introduce you to it. You know, cascara, it's called, is an excellent sort of substitute. It gives you a little bit of pep, but not nearly as much caffeine as a regular cup of coffee. So we enjoy sharing that with people, especially if they're not really big into regular coffee. Tastes also completely different, much more fruity.
Yes.
But in any case,
it's like a bit like apricot, raisin.
Right.
Yeah, and didn't taste. Yeah, absolutely no coffee taste at all.
Right. Yeah. Right. And so what we're trying to do with Lacàph is show that, you know, you can make excellent products, excellent things. You know, 100% Vietnamese made, but also through the products that we make, tell a story about Vietnam. Right. So
at the Lacàph space, you have your like coffee experience, or coffee journey, right?
Right.
And you tell a lot of story about like the cultures around the beans. Could you give us a sneak peek of like if a customer come in and, you know, join the journey, then what would they see?
Yeah. So essentially, I mean, right now what we're at is sort of the retail space. It's downstairs at Lacàph space. So here's where you can really see our products. But upstairs, we have a place called Lacàph Journey Space. And Lacàph Journey Space is a more sort of space where people can really experience different kind of aspects around our product, right?
Yeah.
The 2 main things that we organize upstairs is the first one is called Lacàph Journeys, right? Lacàph Journeys are where people can come and learn about Vietnam through the sort of context or lens of the coffees that we make, right? So we're going to be able to talk about the history of Vietnam, the people, the arts, the music, but always with this sort of link to coffee and coffee culture in Vietnam. The second one is a little bit more practical, called Lacàph Sessions. Lacàph Sessions is going to be something where people can come and just learn how to make great coffee using relatively simple tools at home, right? So a lot of people have become more and more intimidated by making good coffee at home. They think, you know, making a great coffee is going to be complicated. In fact, it's not. You can use very simple tools and make excellent coffee at home. And we want to show that people can do that. So that's really what we do upstairs. You know, people are more than welcome to come and
you guys
try our
have your
products.
own coffee brand and product as well, right?
Yeah. So We have our own coffee,
Mhm.
Lacàph. That's the simple name.
Yes.
You know,
Actually, it's a very clever name.
yeah, it
If
is.
could you,
Well, it's a
explain
little
the
bit of a
name
play.
without-
Yeah, it's a little bit of a play, you know.
Yeah.
So, of course, there's a little bit. You know, we wanted to create a unique name that's easy for both foreigners and Vietnamese to pronounce. Of course, there's a little bit of play for people who can speak Vietnamese. You know,
Yes.
so it's called Lacàph and Café. So, it's kind of a mesh of those two words, essentially,
Yes,
those two terms. And yeah, to people who can't speak Vietnamese, it kind of means, you know, chill coffee, kind of hang out
Yes.
coffee, right? So Lacàph is sort of like to hang, to chill, to be relaxed, and café is obviously coffee. So so it's a little bit of a play, but also it's completely unique, right?
Mhm.
It's this one word use of these two words.
Yes.
And that's why it's also trademarkable.
Yeah.
very, very important.
Yeah,
So we
it's
were
very
able to make a
important.
trademark out of the name, and we have the, you know, the domains and
Uh-huh.
everything that's important around creating a new brand like that.
That's great.
And so we create great coffees. We work a lot with industry people. So we don't really make coffee shops. We really supply other people with good coffee.
Ah.
So restaurants, bars, you know, hotels, they
Mhm.
come to us for very good coffee.
Mhm.
And of course, for people at home, you know, people who want to bring coffee back home and create great coffee at home.
Mhm.
So we really try to supply people with coffee, and we're not
Yes.
going to focus on making cafes. We kind of see ourselves as a sort of a value add brand to the coffee economy in Vietnam, and
Uh-huh.
not really a competitor to our good friends making cafes all over Saigon.
Yes.
Yeah.
So basically, you are the supplier of the coffee bean, the
Mhm.
good quality coffee to the coffee store in Vietnam, but
Mhm.
also you are bringing you are sharing and educating and showing people the culture around the coffee bean, right? So you
Yeah.
told me there are farmers, and you want to tell the story about the farmers and how's the life of the farmer living in the coffee farm.
Right.
Could you tell me one of your favorite story
Yeah.
when you were building this product?
Yeah. So, you know, one of the things that I've been realizing over the many years that I've been here is, you know, that Vietnam has such a rich, you know, history and things that you can tell beautiful stories about. And I think farmers is one of them, right? I mean,
Yes.
we can talk about street coffee culture is one of them, but we can also talk about the farmers
Mhm.
and their rich history.
Mhm.
I think a good example always is the Caho people who
Mhm.
grow coffee.
That's
just
a
outside of-
minority.
Yeah, it's an ethnic group
Uh-huh.
that lives, you know, in a great part of around Dalat,
Uh-huh.
and they specialize in Arabica beans. And I think that their story is really a wonderful story where you can even trace their history back to the Cham Kingdom.
Wow.
Right. So there's sort of a theory that they actually are descendants from the people that lived in Angkor.
Oh, okay.
And then at some point, their city was it's not entirely clear what happened, but you know it became deserted. And
I
and
see.
the idea was maybe what happened was these people then migrated to the areas around the central highlands of Vietnam.
Mm.
So, I mean, these are wonderful stories, and you can talk about this history, and you can talk about their fabrics, their art, their music, and that all with this sort of context of the products that they create to sustain themselves by selling, obviously, their beans and enjoying the product themselves, you know, coffee. So use that as an example, and you can really talk everywhere in Vietnam about
Yeah.
similar stories,
Yeah.
right? You can talk about obviously ethnically Vietnamese people, but you can go to areas in the north, in Son La,
Uh-huh.
and find very interesting stories there as well.
Uh-huh.
But you can also go to the coffee shop owner on the street in Saigon,
Yes.
and talk about her you know, interesting history that her mother started this coffee shop and why they started it and what kind of life they live because they focus on coffee, and some of them even roast their own coffees, and it's really fun to learn about this. And I think that especially, you know, I mean, Vietnamese people love these stories, and expats, foreigners who live in Vietnam love these stories. But when you're a tourist and you visit Vietnam,
Uh-huh.
this is why you come to Vietnam.
Yes.
You know, you want to learn about the Vietnamese history, but not only about what you can read in books, but learn
Not
the sort of
only about the war.
not only about the war, but about personal stories.
Yes.
You know, those are the most emotional. Those are the most sort of that you can kind of relate to personally.
Yeah,
you know?
like for example, Hollywood should make more movie about for like Vietnamese coffee or something, or banh mi, or instead of about Vietnam War, which no one would care about.
Yeah, but I think
anymore.
people, that there's definitely a shift, right? I mean, I would say 10 years ago when I would visit London or Amsterdam, where I'm from, there wasn't really much interest around Vietnamese food.
Yes.
And that has changed significantly.
Yes.
There's a lot of great Vietnamese restaurants in the major cities of the world now. And people are waking up to the fact that Vietnam has a lot to offer. And what we're trying to do is not only offer the best of what we know how to make,
yes,
but also tell the story about how that got into your cup. And I think people want to hear those stories.
Absolutely. Like Vietnam, because we have 4,000-year history, we have very great food, we have years of cultures, art, and everything, and it's great that there are more recognitions, right? There's more recognitions on the Vietnamese coffee, Vietnamese food in general. But yeah, and thanks for people like you, we are having people who are promoting also our art and culture in other aspects as well.
Yeah.
So I believe that you also have other ventures in art related as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's actually where the original idea for Lacàph stemmed from. This sort of realization that when people come to Vietnam, it's not only just about buying, let's say, trinkets and things like that, but people really want to buy into the story. Right, people want to learn about Vietnam and really, and when they learn about Vietnam, buy something that they can go home and tell their friends about and tell their family about.
Yeah.
Right. So in the sort of art gallery business, I think that's actually something that's sometimes missing. Right. When people come, and it doesn't have to necessarily be art collectors, but when they come into a gallery, if you can tell them, something that happened, something that's relevant about the art that they're seeing, then it suddenly becomes way more interesting and valuable to those people. So in the art galleries that I'm kind of interested in developing, that's one of the central points on what we do. We really talk about stories. We talk about the stories that are around the pieces that are on the wall, and then not just it's a beautiful picture, but actually it's a beautiful picture with a great story behind it, and then really focus on that. And that's again what we do at Lacàph, right? It's not just coffee, but it's just coffee with a great story behind it.
And what do you want people to experience when they listen to those stories?
Well, I think especially to visitors to Vietnam, they want to bring something back, right? And I'm not talking about physical. I'm talking about emotional, right? So when they come and visit one of our galleries or Lacàph here, they want to bring something back that they can then share with their friends and their family, right? So they can be like, I want to tell you the story about this person who's in this picture, and that's her name, and that's what she does, and that's her life, and that's something that's way more valuable than just a pretty picture. Because if you just want a pretty picture of Vietnam, then to be honest, you can probably just go onto some sort of stock photography website and search for something and print that.
Yes.
But that's not going to be nearly as interesting and as valuable and emotionally valuable to people as something where they can be like, they can tell their mother when they get home, hey, this is this wonderful story about this person who's in the picture.
Yeah.
And that's actually what people want when they come to a country like Vietnam, is sort of these experiences, these stories. And
I feel like your approach in like business in general is really, really interesting, right? People try to make it the products. They talk more about the products, but you would find products and you make it good, of course, but you focus on the storytelling behind it, and you make people emotionally invested in it. And do you think that approach make people would love the brand more compared to others?
Yeah. I mean, we'll have to see for Lacàph still. It's such a new brand, but I think that that is generally the approach, right? When people come here, they're going to be using the 3 blends that we make during that journey experience that I just explained earlier. So they get to use those products, but not only use the products, but learn about who made those products. And I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about the farmers and the people that are involved in the drying and fermentation processes and the roasting processes and things like that. So when people learn about what happened and how did this bean, get to in front of me right
Yeah.
now and then use it to make something, then that's so much more interesting. It's sort of like when you kind of, when you're not often cooking for yourself and suddenly you cook for yourself and you're like, wow, this is really good, because it's suddenly this whole process that went into it.
I have this experience like literally this week.
Yeah.
Because normally I would eat anything that's available to me because my family cook.
Yeah.
And for the past 2 days, I've been like doing my own food, like just as my preference. I'm like, this is actually pretty nice.
Yeah.
But it takes a lot of time.
Yeah. So I mean that's sort of the what happens to people when they get sort of more involved in it, right? When they learn more about, I mean, not just making the coffee just in front of you, but also, what is the whole story behind this coffee? And then our hope is, of course, that after that experience, that they come downstairs into this space and then hopefully buy something that they like, and then when they bring it home to wherever they're from, that they can then share that with the people at home. Whether it's their sister, brother, colleagues at work, that they can say, hey, this is this product, and I can tell you the whole story about how this product was made and the people behind it.
Yes.
And that's also far more interesting for the people back home,
of course,
right? Because it's not just, let's taste Vietnamese coffee, but why, how,
yes,
things
why,
like that.
how, yes, absolutely. And I'm curious, like, how do you find the products, or how do you find such art for your art gallery? Because as I mentioned earlier, right, it's not very mainstream. It's not that easy to find those products. How do you sort it out and you figure out, this is the products that you want to be involved in?
Yeah.
Or this is the art type or art form that you want to be involved in?
Yeah. So, I think personally that Vietnam is full of amazing things that have yet to be discovered, really. And I think that slowly we see it with, brands like Maru Chocolate doing, a lot of what we're trying to do with coffee. They've done already and are still doing really good job.
Yes.
I think
so. Maru is a chocolate brand
in
Vietnam.
Yeah.
I think they was ranked 1 year, but the best chocolate in the world.
They make excellent chocolate.
Yeah.
For
so
sure.
they all made. So all the chocolate is from the cacao from Vietnam, different provinces, and they have different types of chocolate. That from different province, and they would just say, okay, this is from Lâm Đồng, this is from Nha Trang, or something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, their approach is a little different. So they do the single origin, and we do blends because we think that that's sort of an expression of our brands.
Yes.
But in any case, generally speaking, what they are doing is they're taking something that maybe was hidden a little bit before, and they brought it forward and put it in beautiful packaging.
Yes.
And then really started promoting it on an international stage, right? And I think that there's so many opportunities within Vietnam. I think that areas people are doing it more and more, but obviously Phu Quoc pepper is an area that I think can be very interesting. I think Vietnamese teas, there are a lot of very interesting Vietnamese teas that are sort of undiscovered somewhat, that can be really developed further.
How about the artist then?
So the artist is a new sort of a new category I'm really looking at is Son Mai. Son Mai is that lacquer, right?
Yes, lacquer.
So, but Son Mai, like very sort of like strictly speaking, fine art.
Yes.
Right. So that's an area that I'm developing with a friend of mine, a new project called Lacquer Tree. So Seiko Ando, she's a Japanese artist, but living in Vietnam already 20-something years.
Wow.
And she worked under two of Vietnam's most famous lacquer artists, most recognized and
what is lacquer art? For
so
those
lacquer
that
art,
don't know.
Lacquer art is where you take sap from a lacquer tree and you make art with it.
Okay.
And it's actually a relatively complex process to do well. And some of these pieces take years to make. It's not something you can whip out in an afternoon.
I see.
It's something that's done all over Vietnam. It's very time consuming. A lot of artists live in Hanoi. They make beautiful pieces. It takes a long time to make, and it's something that I'm working on with Seiko to develop this new brand called Lacquer Tree. And Lacquer Tree will be basically a gallery that really celebrates the best sort of fine lacquer art. So we're not talking about bowls. Generally speaking, we're not talking about bowls or things like small things like that. We're talking about wall pieces or sometimes more statue-like pieces that use 100% natural Vietnamese lacquer. We won't be accepting anything that doesn't use natural lacquer because a lot of artisans, I would say, are slowly moving towards synthetic lacquers, and those are way easier to work with. But they're not sort of the traditional process that we want to really invest in.
Yeah, I think that in Vietnam, that's the I feel like that's personally I'm concerned about how the tradition and the modern Vietnam are like trying to emerge together, because we have a lot of traditions things that have been, we have it for many years, and then like now a lot of them are being wiped out. Like a lot of like ceramic farm, like village or something, they are known to making ceramic, and they are very good at it, and like slowly they just become like a touristy spot just for the cultural experience, right? No one really want to reserve the art anymore. And I think if there are people that are dedicated to preserve the traditions, then that would be really great.
Yeah, I think to some extent, maybe counterintuitively, investment is necessary, right?
Yes.
So you say, investment is sort of this modern kind of corporate concept, but it's not necessarily always the case. If you can sensibly invest in the people and their factories and their projects, and ensure that things like the raw material production of things like this and the lacquer and such is maintained at a high standard, then and if you also help people really make money with their crafts, right? Then there is a bright future.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, not all the investment is sensible, and sometimes there's no investment at all.
Yes.
But for instance, not only we don't with Lacquer Tree only want to work with artists, we also want to work with the farmers that make the lacquer.
Yeah.
Why do we want to do that? Because often is the case that they're not making enough money producing lacquer. And so what happens is they'll chop down the lacquer trees and put some other crop that makes more money.
Yeah.
And of course, that makes complete sense as a farmer to do that, right? So with Lacquer Tree, what we're going to do is we're basically purchasing lacquer from farmers at a fixed price, at a double the price of what they would normally get, and cut out lacquer sales middle people. So these people are usually buying lacquer and selling it directly to artists and making a big profit.
Yes.
And so that's not our business model for Lacquer Tree, right? Lacquer Tree is making money on selling to art collectors. So but what is in our interest is to make sure that artists get great quality lacquer. So if we work directly with the farmers, ensure they're high quality, ensure that they're well paid, purchase the lacquer, and then pass it on and sell it to the artists at zero profit, that means that the artists are paying the same. The farmers are getting double.
Yes.
We don't have to make money on that transaction.
Yes.
Right? That's not our interest. And we can ensure that the artists continue to have access to very high quality Vietnamese lacquer.
I think that's a very good approach because, of course, like the reason why traditions methods are being wiped out is because it's no longer making an economical sense anymore, and that's why people are changing it into a faster, cheaper, or easier method. But of course, if there are an economical it's make money sense,
right?
And people will continue to do it,
right? And it's the same for artists. We work very closely with the artists and help them get their name out, right? And make sure that art collectors know about them and help them price their art. Because a lot of the time, if you're an artist, your interest is not the sales side as much, but your interest is the creation side.
Yes.
So often the case, they make beautiful things that take many years to make, and to be honest, they undervalue it. And so what we do is also help them really price it at a fair price for art collectors that are willing to purchase at higher than they often higher prices than the artist would often set it in the past. And so a lot of people think, okay, well, increasing the price, is that really a good thing? Well, in this case, we believe so, because increased prices also mean, so to some extent, more respect, right?
Yeah.
In a global, art world, in the global art economy, if your art is valued high, you're going to be considered a more relevant, more important artist in many cases. So we're gonna, we're helping with these artists really understand the value that they're creating.
I see. And how's it like to working with an artist? What kind of help that they would need on a business aspect?
Well, I'm not an artist.
Yes.
So for me to say to artists what they need or don't need, I'm not too keen on doing that. That's one of the reasons why I like working with Seiko, right? Seiko has been working under and with some of the best lacquer artists, and she's an artist herself, right? And she uses Vietnamese lacquer and she creates wonderful pieces. And so it's because of my relationship with Seiko that I can actually work with artists, right? I can't just go to an artist and say, hey, I'm going to do this with you. And they're going to be like, who are you? So that's why I need Seiko, right? And so although I can help a lot on sort of like, let's say the operational front, it's really Seiko that kind of helps organize and bring these artists together. And it's, again, sort of strength through numbers, right? One artist alone may be, a little bit difficult to get that name out, because also the collection is a little bit small. But if we have like 5 or 6 artists together, that Seiko helps bring together, that's going to have a big impact.
But then how do you build the trust between you and Seiko or your other art curators? Because, from an artist standpoint, then people would want, the artist would want to work with someone that's very respectful of their art, right? How do you show the artist that you are respectful, or you are, capable of helping them?
Yeah, I mean, of course, a good sort of record, right, of your past work is very important. If you're able to show that you have worked in the past with other artists and that's gone well, that helps a lot. But I think spending time with artists is very important. So when I go to Hanoi, I visit them in their house, have lunch with them, and spend time. Right, you need to get to know them. I think with any relationship, that's quite important. But I'm an art collector myself. I'm not an artist, but I collect art, and I always collect art that I find personally meaningful to myself in some way. So in that sense, you first need to appreciate by being, I would say it'd be important to be appreciative by being a customer.
Yes.
And then, relationships develop. And then once the time is right, hopefully you can work together as well. But like I said, especially on the Lacquer Tree project, nothing would have been possible without working with Seiko. And Seiko has 20 years of these relationships. And that's the most important of all.
That's a long time in Vietnam for sure. And you're also here for like 13 years. So
13 years.
That's pretty long as well. How's your experience so far?
I wouldn't be here if it wasn't really great. Honestly, I really appreciate what I've been able to do, and the people that are helping me and that are part of my teams. I think it's been super exciting. I think Vietnam is full of opportunity. Like I said, finding these hidden gems, it's sort of like it's a process, but they're everywhere. You can find so many interesting things to talk about in Vietnam. And we decided with Lacàph that coffee was going to be that, because I think coffee is getting so good here. But there's so many other areas. Lacquer is one of them.
Do you feel like people should search more in other area, not just the main cities right now, or like Ho Chi Minh? Or Hanoi?
I mean, like you said, there's pottery, right? And there's a couple people doing things with pottery. But I think that really investing in it, making sure that it doesn't go, disappear, and then and then pricing it correctly.
Yes.
I sometimes think that some beautiful pieces are still too inexpensive in Vietnam, and that people are willing to pay more. And in fact, more of that money can then go to the creators of those pieces. So, ceramics and pottery and ethnic art is a very interesting thing. I think, the spices.
If you're going to be an artist, then what kind of art would you want to do?
I'm not an artist. I'm not very good.
But I think you would consider yourself an artist at heart, right?
No, actually,
Really?
I don't know. I admire art so much, and I think to some extent, if I can say so myself, I do have aesthetic taste, but I'm so bad at it myself.
Well, what did you try though? Like art is in so many forms. What have you tried?
Oh, I don't know. I like ink a lot. So I like it, ink drawings and things like that. Actually, that's another interesting area. So one of the very famous Dutch artists of modern times is a man called MC Escher, and Escher did what's called lithographs mainly, and those are sort of prints, right? Vietnam also has a beautiful history of prints. So, in fact, Maru Chocolate, about a year and a half, 2 years ago, did very interesting packaging for the National Gallery Singapore, I want to say, or National Museum Singapore, where they would sell exclusively Maru Chocolate with very special Vietnamese art wrapped chocolate. And so actually
in Singapore,
Prince,
not in Vietnam?
yeah, they did an exclusive arrangement for because the Singapore Gallery does a lot of Vietnamese art as well.
Okay.
So they had I think they had also a special exhibition on Vietnamese art at that time.
Oh,
that
wow, okay.
might have been one of the reasons.
I see.
But in any case, so I love ink, and not ink drawings necessarily only, but prints and things like that. So maybe prints would be something, something in homage to MC Escher, who is one of my favorite artists.
Yes.
So.
Where is he from?
He's from Netherlands. He's Dutch,
I see,
just like myself. Yeah.
Do you have any artists that you would want to work like in Vietnam or anywhere?
Okay, so although I really love all the lacquer artists, one of my favorite artists at this moment outside of lacquer is an artist called Nguyen Van Bai. He's from Hanoi.
Yes.
And he's oil mainly.
Oh, okay.
Now, what I really love about him, and this is maybe because I'm Dutch, but he has this great technique with oil, painting. And what he does, but a lot of it, you could sort of see the techniques that you see sort of in the old Dutch masters, right? So when you go to these museums in like the Rijksmuseum or Van Gogh or something like that, so these uses of oil with lights and things like that. But he has Vietnamese topics, right? So whether it's farm life or family life, these are really interesting. So his compositions are very, very interesting, and they're very meaningful to me. I think that they're really kind of beautiful technically and topically very interesting. And so he's an artist that I have, I really have high hopes for in the next, and he's not super old. I think he's early 40s, I want to say.
Oh, okay. That's not too old at all.
Yeah, and he makes beautiful things, and he's sometimes in the National Gallery here. I've visited his his artist studio in Hanoi twice now. And it's really beautiful stuff. And I actually purchased one of his pieces. That it's a really wonderful piece of his mother feeding a bottle of milk to his baby son.
Oh,
and it's this wonder. I mean, you see so much in this painting.
Yeah.
Where you can see these incredible relationships between family members that are, I would say, very Vietnam specific. Where family is so core and so important.
Yes.
And also often where parents, because they have to go out and work and earn a living.
Yes.
So the grandmother often takes over some of the responsibility for taking care of the grandparents. Taking care of children. So you can see so much in one painting, and it's so beautiful technically. And you see so much of culture and history of Vietnam in one painting, even though it only has two characters in it. Yeah. And it's not some sort of historical painting, right? And if you look at it, you can just see everything, and it's so beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like you're a big a person of sorry, cut that part out. I feel like you're a person like very interested in culture, right? Can you tell me more like why do you choose to be in Vietnam, or why do you come here at first place?
Yeah, so I mean, I came here when I was really young, so it was 13 years ago, so I was 20. And I came here initially because I really enjoyed traveling here when I was still in university.
Oh, so you went here as like an exchange program?
No, I came here just as a backpacker during the summer holiday. And I really just enjoyed Vietnam. I had traveled Thailand, Cambodia, Vietnam, and Laos. And out of the 4 countries, I enjoyed Vietnam the most because I felt, okay, and I still feel it's really a country on the edge of rapid development, and there's so much opportunity if you're willing to work hard. If you're a creative, you can really find so many interesting things to do. And so I came here and I worked for a sort of corporate world for the first half of the time that I was here.
Yeah,
and in marketing primarily, and then I left that sort of corporate world about 6-7 years ago to start my various ventures. And I think what keeps me here, besides the companies that I've already created, is just the continued plethora of opportunity in the country.
And I feel like you love learning new things, right? And each of your ventures is actually very different from each other.
Yeah, part of the reason why I begin things is because I want to learn about those things, right? So I'm
that's
actually,
a smart way to learn things, right?
I'm not really a huge. I am more now, but I wasn't a huge coffee drinker, But I like it. And then I started learning about it, and then I started learning about the culture and the people. And then I thought, from my experience in galleries, I thought, okay, that's actually what people want, right? I mean, you can just buy a product, and it's a good product, but if it's truly meaningful to you, then you want to know more about that product and the story behind that product. And and that's how I started learning more and more, and that's been a really great experience. But also, because I don't have that existing sort of background in coffee, I also approach the project in a very different way. Of course, we work with people within Lacàph, like Scott and Ron and other people.
Shout out to them.
Yeah, shout out to them. To have that, strong knowledge, that backbone, and making great products. But, we also look at it from a different way. Lacàph is trying to make coffees for regular people. We're not trying to be a super specialty, very complicated coffee brand where you need a lot of equipment to work and to make great coffee at home. We want to show the opposite. We want to show, with great beans,
you can create great products at home.
And so I think a lot of sort of, let's say, called traditional, especially in Europe, they make it very complicated. And it's a little bit scary for people like me. And what I want to do is show, hey, you know what? Good coffee beans, simple equipment can make great coffee at home. And so again, kind of, showing from my perspective as not a coffee drinker, trying to make a product that I can buy.
Yes, I absolutely understand your perspective because so my first venture ever was a homemade bakery on mooncakes. And for mooncakes, before that, I don't like it a lot. I just don't like to eat it at all. But then because I made it so much and I understand the progress and I understand how to make a good mooncakes, now I'm very, very appreciate the art or like the time that and the energy people put in to make a great mooncakes. And I can tell, right?
It's the right season now, right? It's starting to become the right season for mooncakes.
Yeah, it's going to be like, in the next 2 weeks, it's going to happen.
So in any case, I think, I would say I liked coffee before, but I've definitely grown to appreciate it more. But again, what we're trying to do is great coffee for people with my background.
Yes.
And even for people who don't like coffee at all, like you, we have great coffee related products.
Yes.
Our cascara tea. And to try to create something for everybody. We certainly want to make coffee that's so good that even people who know a lot about coffee would drink it and be like, that's great coffee.
Yes.
But we want to make it just for everybody so that everybody can, can approach it and appreciate it. Yeah.
Yes. So for people that are wanting to find hidden gems in Vietnam, what would be the advice that you could give them?
I could recognize that it's not always easy to recognize other hidden gems, especially for people who live in an area where there might be hidden gems because you're used to it.
Yeah.
You're used to the beauty or the coffee or the ceramics or whatever is around you and you think maybe that's just normal. But try to think from a sort of outsider's perspective and look in and say, okay, maybe there's something in my immediate surrounding that can be a hidden gem.
Yeah.
Like for instance, in Muine town, right? Not the beach, but the town. I always think, that's such a beautiful bay there with all those fishing boats that you can, drive up to. But there's no, nice seafood restaurant that's just there that has that beautiful view or that they can kind of talk about, oh, let's put something on the wall about a fisherman's life and average, or maybe because, maybe something where the fisherman's family and extended family can work there and do something interesting there.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's actually more near than you think. It could just be in your backyard or it can be kind of in your direct surroundings, something that you can say, you know what, this is actually pretty interesting and I should tell the story about this because it's in my family or it's in my community or it's already there just around me. I just need to expose it and write down the story and actually make an effort and make a good sort of script so that you can tell people something that's fluid and kind of well put together and true about, something that's just around you already. So, I think that sometimes it's more near than you think. You don't have to look too far, but you might need to actually sort of take an outsider's perspective and say, okay, would that actually be interesting for other people to learn about? It might be very normal to you, but not to other people.
Absolutely. And I think that also taking a broad perspective, like if you should feeling proud of the products or the things that you say so that you can share it with enthusiasm and of course testing it out, right? You can try to start telling people about the things surrounding your area and see what people's are
what resonates.
What resonates to people.
It's so many things. I mean, just like people who create great fish sauce, right? You might think, oh, that's normal. It's just fish sauce. But if your family is good at making fish sauce,
you would know the secret, right?
Yeah, you know something that people want to hear about. Like, how did they get good? What's your family history? And then maybe think about, okay, what kind of packaging can I create to make it really look good on the store shelf? And maybe, you do need to find a little bit of money to get, hygiene approval so that you can sell it in the grocery store. But go through those processes and try to see what you can do. And maybe something as simple as something that your mother already makes can be the next killer product.
Absolutely. In Vietnam, they absolutely love homemade stuff.
Right.
Or like something that, friends families doing it. They love promoting it. And word of mouth is actually a great method to marketing it. Actually to test out if your product is good.
Yeah.
Because everybody around you actually would appreciate and would try to promote and help you a lot.
Yeah.
Especially in Vietnam when you try to start a business.
Yeah. What about you? So what kind of things, what kind of inspiration have you found through this podcast, for instance?
I think for me, I think every episode is actually a hidden gem for me because I feel like for the podcast, the reason I want to build a podcast is because I want to share to the audience, to the world, that there are great people out there that are doing great products, great activity that are promoting Vietnam.
Right.
And I think every single guest that's been on has been a great representative of how Vietnam is turning to become.
Yeah, I've been very much enjoying the podcast so far. I wish you a lot of luck in the future.
Thank you.
Really, really am excited about the coming episodes that I can enjoy.
Yes.
And, I really enjoyed having you here at Lacàph Space. And
thank you for having us here.
Yeah, if anybody wants to come, we're going to be slowly opening over the next couple of weeks. Please visit our website, lacaph.com. It's LACAPH.com. We'll put up a lot of things there. Also, we're on Facebook and Instagram, lacaph.coffee. So LACAPH.coffee. Very easy to find. If you want to find me on Facebook or something like that.
How do they find you?
My name is relatively unique, so I would say probably just search for Timen, Timen, and hopefully you'll be able to find me on Instagram and Facebook pretty easily. I don't have that much interesting content on there, but once in a while I'll post something fun.
Yeah.
About my adventures as well.
Yeah, and if you are someone art enthusiastic, then you should definitely talk to Timen because he knows a lot about the art economy and art cultures in Vietnam. And yes, thank you for being here today on the podcast. I think it's a great episode for people out there who want to understand more about how to find hidden gems in Vietnam.
Yeah,
and
my pleasure.
Yes, thank you. And you guys, if you like this episode, make sure that you tell us on Facebook as well as YouTube or on our email at vietnamrisingpodcast@gmail.com. And thank you and see you guys in the next episode.
Cheers. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Goodbye.